Well, I'm honored to be asked to share my work and vision, and Andrew and I have been working together on this for 10 years. We met 10 years ago, and we've written a book called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. And we are big picture thinkers. I see very big pictures, like the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. So this is all good news, what we're going to share with you, because for us and what we're bringing in this book is that there's only love, and there's only the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. That's what everything is about from our perspective. And what I titled this talk, Trust, Providence, Pilgrims, Indians, and the American Dream. So that I wouldn't be giving a talk on philosophy, basically, the nature of the universe, because I don't know how many of you resonate to that. Some people do, and some people don't. So I wanted to make it more practical than theoretical. Our book really brings the practical application of the theories that we're presenting. So we're not just airy-fairy new age. We're bringing indigenous cosmology and quantum science to the table, a synthesis of the two to bring an understanding of the conscious, loving nature of the universe. So we're hoping to be important in how humanity thinks about the nature of the universe, ultimately. And we're getting very good response to the book and the ideas. There is a way of, well, quantum science is bringing a new understanding of how the universe works. And in my life, I asked, what has humanity out of balance? And it was actually Florence Nightingale who inspired me to see that humanity is so capable of such love. And I just asked, why aren't we operating that way? Why aren't we treating each other, our children, and the earth that way? If we have that capacity, why are we out of balance? And what came to me was that we're operating on misinformation about the nature of the universe. It's just the logical mind operating on misinformation. It's not human nature to be doing what we're doing and have been doing forever. It has to do with the fact that we're operating on misinformation about the nature of the universe. And so my life became a seeking of these missing pieces of the paradigm, is how I put it. Okay, what are the missing pieces of the paradigm? Why do we have a paradigm in which there are phenomena that we can't explain, that happen, but we call them phenomena? That wasn't good enough for me to base my life on a paradigm that can't explain things that happen. As an intelligent Dana Hall girl, a well-educated member of my community, which is what I think Dana Hall or Wheaton said that I was going to be as a result of my education, that wasn't good enough for me. So I started looking for the missing pieces of the paradigm. And the answers you get depend on the questions you ask. And so I asked that question, and my life became this journey of discovering these missing pieces. And having come from a family of philanthropists in Maine, my family gave away all their money to the people of Maine in the form of parks and mountains and libraries and all manner of things. They didn't hoard, they didn't save, they gave it away. And so I'm like, okay, what's up with that? And in office, they championed the women, the land, the earth, so I came from these people that resonated to a different set of rules. And so that became my life, and ultimately I went to Europe looking for it. I took up with an Austrian Olympic ski champion and went to Europe looking for it, and found just more of the same. You've been living in Europe, a lot of everybody's, it's just us. We came from Europe. Our thinking came from Europe. And then in 1976, I was in a bookstore in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and picked up a book on Native American poetry, and I saw then that there were 500 Indian nations who have the missing pieces, have an understanding of the nature of the universe that is outside of the scientific paradigm that had been driving our reality. and it resonated to what my ancestors had been doing, which is giving away, because in the essence of the native way, you give it all away. You don't hoard, you don't save, you know there's more tomorrow. It's an abundant universe. So elders started coming into my life and showing me these various pieces of the puzzle, and I started spending a lot of time with Native Americans and bringing them to Aspen, Colorado to share their understanding of the nature of the universe, this interconnected, they're all my relations. I don't know if any of you have spent any time with Native Americans or in a lot of people on the emails. People had Jane Clayman has had some, and Susan Hammett has been in Bolivia with it. I don't know if any of you have had any contact whatsoever with Native Americans, but
Native Canadians.
yeah, indigenous peoples of the world. Andrew's known the Bushmen of the Kalahari and various others. So he and I coming together really brought, it expanded from the Native American perspective into indigenous peoples of the world, basically. But what I want to talk about, since that isn't really something that resonates for you guys, the Native American piece, what I found was a trust-based paradigm. And that's why we call this the trust frequency. I see this frequency. I know it exists. Jesus talked about it. John Lennon talked about it. You know, the Sermon on the Mount, you know, it talks about a reality that that has the characteristics of a different world than the one we've been conditioned to think is the only game in town. Well, what I've discovered is it's not the only game in town, it's just the only game in town in this frequency. That there are other frequencies with other characteristics, other laws, other realities, and that we have the free will to shift our frequency, our vibratory rate into another frequency where the laws are different. That it's not a direct extrapolation from here to there. There's a leap. There's a leap in frequency, so that trying to fix what's going on here won't ever happen. I've called it a solutionless dilemma forever. There's just no fixing it. Because every time we try to fix it, we throw it into, more out of balance. We call it a house of cards on a false foundation, because it's built on erroneous assumptions about the nature of the universe. We don't understand how the universe works. And mainly, we don't understand how loved we are by a conscious, loving universe, and that everything that we think happens. And this is quantum science is showing that the observer effect. I don't know how any of you know anything about quantum science. Does anybody have had any contact with, seen the movie What the Bleep? Do we know? That was a big breakthrough film in this arena of thinking. But anyway, there's a thing called the observer effect, that we actually affect the reality we experience simply by what we think. And that's what we're calling the conscious loving universe, that it shows up to give us what we think to be true. It shows up to make that true. So some call it the law of attraction. We don't go, has anybody heard of the law of attraction? Anyway, you see, there's a whole arena of thinking out there that we're involved in, that all this is very common thinking. But what what I want to do is bring it into practicality in the fact that the Indians have this trust-based paradigm that shows us that we live in a conscious, loving universe. That I don't know if you've ever heard of, you know, the Indians say, well, an animal will cross your path to bring you a lesson. Has anybody ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, if an animal crosses our path to teach us a lesson, how does that happen? How does that animal get in our path knowing that we've got something to learn from its presence? You see, so that's the conscious loving universe aspect of it, that things show up for us to take us on a journey, teach us things, answer our questions, we call it chance. You know, if that hadn't happened, then, you know, it wouldn't have happened, and you know, poor pitiful me, I'm the victim of circumstance who has done all this stuff to me. And what we're basically saying is the nature of that love is unconditional, meaning that it gives you everything you ask for and everything your soul has asked for when it incarnates on the planet. So all the negative things that happen in our life are actually gifts to us because there's only love in this paradigm that we're presenting. So I'm trying to give some kind of semblance of an idea of this paradigm that the Mayflower Pilgrims, who came here in 1620, because we're doing a lot of work with the Mayflower Pilgrims and the Indians, they actually lived a trust-based paradigm. They actually lived according to what they felt was a higher power saying to them, go and do this. Start a society built on a higher conscience, built on people listening to their higher selves and acting from that place. So they came here to do that. And they because I understand the native way of living and understanding the nature of the universe, I could recognize that the Mayflower Pilgrims had a similar philosophy, a similar spirituality, that they were acting from the same place that the Native Americans act from. And they came to America and met the Wampanoag Indians and lived in peace and friendship for 50 years. There was an astounding interaction for 50 years between the Mayflower Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Indians. I don't know if anybody is aware of that. Are you guys aware of that fact, that there was 50 years of friendship and peace between the Indians and the Pilgrims? So they met, they were spiritually aligned, which very few people understand this perspective. So this is the work that Andrew and I are doing. We're right now working on a book and a film, and a documentary film on the first 50 years of peace and friendship, because this was the origin story of America. This was the beginning of America, and it was the coming together of Pilgrims and Indians in this framework of a trust-based, providence-based paradigm. So a providence-based paradigm is a paradigm that the founding fathers also operated according to. They did everything they could. The founding fathers and the 1776 guys, they all based their lives on a providence-based paradigm. We turn everything over to divine providence. When we do everything we can, and then we turn it over to divine providence. If you listen to, if you do any reading of their writings, the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all those guys, we turn it over to divine providence. It's a providence-based paradigm. It's bringing in a higher power, a higher understanding of what's driving things, and that it's benevolent, and that it serves us in our lives. So that's the point we're making. I haven't really, in the work we are doing, this is the first time I'm really putting it on the table that that the Pilgrims, the Indians, the founding fathers were all operating from this trust frequency, this trust-based paradigm, this providence-based paradigm. So what we're basically saying is that for the American dream that came out of the vision of the Pilgrims, of the Indians, of the founding fathers, that humanity was actually going to bring justice, liberty, justice, and abundance for all. That's essentially the American dream, ultimately, is abundance for all. I mean, the liberty and justice, yeah, but also that everybody in the world could rise and have abundant life. that's been corrupted into a materialistic world. But ultimately, it's saying we all have the right not only to the pursuit of happiness, but to have an abundant life. That's the vision that the Founding Fathers had for humanity. And we're saying that basically there is no way we're going to get there in this frequency, in this paradigm, with these core assumptions about the nature of the universe that keeps us in this lower frequency, this whole scarcity-based paradigm that has the world out of balance, that we have to rise to a higher level of thinking. And how we get there is through understanding that we live in a conscious, loving universe, shifting our core assumptions about the nature of the universe. That we're not going, and we're out of balance. I mean, it's very obvious that the country is out of balance, right? I mean, the whole world is out of balance. I mean, we're all in a big mess. So we're basically saying that it's possible to get there. It's just not possible given our assumptions at this time, our frequency, the frequency we're in. We're not going to get there. We're going to get there by opening our hearts, by understanding how loved we are by this conscious loving universe, get out of blame, shame, victim, perpetrator, and all that stuff, and power and control over others, and scarcity, amassing wealth, and all that, to a higher place where this vision for humanity can actually come to pass, and that it is going to happen. We're going to do it, and we're bringing tools to do it through shifting our core assumptions about the nature of the universe. And there's a lot of work being done in physics, in science, by various people doing peace rally, people that are desirous of coming together and living in peace and coming from this higher place. I don't know if you guys feel that you're seeing it in daily life at all, but I don't think I would have been asked to speak here on the subject if it wasn't a core resonance. Even though I'm maybe speaking a different language and of things that you don't even understand, I hope I've made some sense. But there's a core resonance that we feel, and the people that we're in association with feel that there's, where humanity is about to take this evolutionary leap to a higher way of thinking and seeing and feeling. It is our true nature. It is the true nature of the universe, and we're going to act from that place and bring peace on earth. Heaven on earth. There! So, did that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Did it?
Yes, sure.
Oh, good, because I'm trying to give you just a taste here and there, just to resonate to something that you resonated to, that you understand, that just says, oh yeah, I get that, yeah, that's possible, yeah, cool, that gives a little more here and there. What were you going to say?
I think it's fascinating. I've read part of your book. I guess I'm sure to have way through, written very clearly. And I'm a Christian who really has a personal relationship with God through Christ. And a lot of what you say, I don't know if you've known Christians who are real believers, because a lot of what you say is just a different vocabulary.
Yeah. No, I got that.
So I thought that was very interesting. As I'm reading your book, I'm reading it with that in mind, and I find it fascinating. Your underlying assumption is different than what your question is one that I had all my life, and I think which is answered by the Christian whole view of meaning of things and why and all of that, which is what faith is made up of. But and it is that something is terribly wrong. I think when where we are, I don't know, and I can assume that people feel that something is very, very wrong, and we're messing things up big time. And The thing is, we always have. We have messed things up in whatever period. We're aware of what's happening now, and it's just simply consistent with different periods in the past. So I see it as a endemic sort of human problem, and so when I say it's human nature, when we speak of fallen nature, that it truly is something that is just prevalent, it's just in all of humanity, is we have an odd leaning towards, I would say, self-destruction. Now why, we have this strange, even if, and I think we know it in our life experience, even when you try to go on a diet or something. I mean, we know, I don't think it is based on knowledge. This is where I differ. That we don't, if you had right assumptions and right information and all that, things would change. It's a completely spiritual phenomenon, and you would agree with that. But I don't think it's based on information.
Okay.
Otherwise, those who are intelligent enough would be the highly evolved, to use the word evolved people. But it does have to do with, I think, an acknowledgement of a loving presence of God. And it's really a heart change. You spoke of, it's hard to explain, but it's very an inner heart change. But I see God as very personal and very thankful for Christ. I see it all as in a little more, I wouldn't want to depersonalize him, not that I think that he's a man or, or make him too human, other than Jesus, but he has a will that's not our will. I do think that thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven is something we want to become tuned into, which is pretty much what you talk about too. It is a different frequency, it is a different way, it is a better way, certainly in how we relate to people, the selflessness, not the... So anyways, I'm fascinated with hearing what you have to say and then seeing how your arguments really shore up what Christians have known for a very, very long time. I'm not talking about churchgoers, but I'm talking about people who are serious about their faith.
Yes.
It was really interesting, but I wonder if you had explored the whole, because you talked about the church fathers, and it seems very masculine. Have you looked at the women who were involved, because they were founding women of the country, and they were, and especially with the evolution of the recognition of the power of women, which we said when we were here as students, but I hear it is very masculine, and I just wondered if you'd done any looking at that.
Not specifically, because really our work has to do with the nature of the universe, and the whole America piece. We're really focusing on the first 50 years of Pilgrims and Indians. It's really conceptual. So that's another subject. I could say the founders of America instead of the founding fathers, which I probably should. But at this point, that's not an arena of our explorations per se. Because its ideas this is really idea-based. And I think that all humans, I consider myself a human. I happen to be a human in a female body. But me being a woman isn't what's first on my agenda, so I just look at us all as humans. So I'm exploring the evolution of consciousness in the human being.
If the Pilgrims and the Founding Fathers got it right and started operating in this paradigm of trust, which you talk about, why did it only last 50 years? And if we, in turn, try to operate in a similar way, what's to guarantee that in 50 years or 100 years it won't all fall apart again?
Well, we believe it's an evolutionary upward spiral, that all the experiences we've had are teaching us something, and we're taking it in and learning something, that all of creation is actually the God she's speaking of we think is a force of energy, a consciousness, that it's coming to understand itself through us. So every emotion we have, every behavior we do, everything that's ever been done actually is evolving that consciousness to a higher level. That to me, all I know is that all there is the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. That, to me, that's just a knowing I have, that everything serves it. It has to, because that's all there is. There's only love. Then this is me. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's my reality.
And how do you explain wars and evil and whatever within that concept?
Well, what we do in this book is, see, that's a paradox, right? So we say the book resolves 6 paradoxes. And one of them, which is the big one, is the one you've just brought up. And the way we resolve that is that, we say our first assumption is there's only love. We live in a conscious, loving universe. There is only love. The second assumption is, and what I say, then I'll say what the second, but what I say is that the reason we see certain things as not love, right, war, abuse, etc., is that we don't understand the nature of that love. See, we think love is holding hands, being sweet and kind to each other. See, that we're hung up on that.
Okay.
Even the luminaries, the top of this consciousness field, can't get around that. And what we're saying is, in our second assumption, is the nature of that love is unconditional. It gives us everything we ask for. You see? So, what we're saying is, and many people may disagree with this, one of our core assumptions or our definitions of humanity is that it's a unit of divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who choose to incarnate on earth with a purpose and a gift on our soul's journey to wholeness. Okay? So, I don't know where everybody is with that, but that we actually choose to incarnate. We say, okay, I'm going on a journey. I want to come to more self-love, more, I want to ultimately integrate with all that is, with this love that drives the universe, and I've got to go through processes and experiences to get there, and I'm coming to Earth to do that. So that on a personal level, people who come in, and I don't know if you know, Rosamund Waring was very abused as a child. And I sort of threw this out yesterday, and she said, "What? You're saying I chose that?"
Yeah.
You know, it's really tough. It's really a tough concept. But ultimately what it does is it takes away the victim. It helps us understand that, in fact, when somebody said it reframes our life experiences on a personal level. And it's very challenging because we're into, our paradigm is the victim, perpetrator, blame, shame, go away, you're mean to me, I don't, you're just like dad, I'm out of here, in a marriage, say. And what we're saying is that we incarnated to that dad to get those experiences, to resolve them, to take on certain wounds, to take on certain things that our soul actually chose those parents, chose those experiences, actually magnetized the experiences, actually created the experiences. I don't know if you've ever felt that you said something to someone and you're like, why did I say that? Shit, I wish I hadn't said that. And they're really mad. They're really judgmental about it. You really just offended them and you don't even know why you said it. Because their soul asked for it, magnetized it, actually had you say that so that they could feel betrayed. They could feel like you're just like dad. They could feel like you're just like mom. Whatever it is, because this, in our being is this, we're holding in our unconscious these experiences that we had to keep in our unconscious so we could survive through these experiences. And then they come forth through the people in our lives. This loving universe brings them forth so that we can experience them, so that we can release them. so that we can understand it. We took on, oh, I'm not okay, because Dad didn't think I was smart or pretty or whatever. And we get to see, oh, you're not smart and you're not pretty. Oh, but you know what? I don't care if I'm smart or pretty. I'm me. I'm beautiful. I'm magnificent. I am divine. I am a phenomenon, and I don't care what you think, because I love myself now. And thank you very much for showing me that I took that on as a child. So, on a higher level, or a more global scale, if we have a paradigm. I studied economics. The core assumption of economics in 101 is the problem of scarcity. Right? I mean, anybody studied economics? The problem of scarcity. Well, if we, the Jesus thing with the loaves and the fishes, okay? He had 40 bushel baskets left over. All right, whether this is true or this is a metaphor, there is an abundant universe. John Lennon's Imagine, imagine no possessions, whatever, we're not grabbing and hoarding and keeping and everything, because in the native way, what I saw through the native way is, you don't hoard, you don't save, there's more tomorrow. What if we all knew that? What if we didn't have a what if? What if there isn't more tomorrow? I better save some today so that I have more tomorrow, and so that my kids have power and control over those people's kids who don't have it. I mean, that's what it's all about. Hoarding stuff on a national level, personal level, so that our progeny have success and ultimately power and control over others. I mean, kids in school are taught, you go into school and you compete. You learn how to compete so you can survive. There's a winner and a loser, and you better be a winner or else. Okay? That's a paradigm. That's a belief system that has led to war, has led to the whole shooting match. If everybody knew there was plenty for everybody all the time, and if we actually believed that, that's how the loving universe would actually show up. Jesus knew. I mean, I'm not a Christian person. I just use him because everybody knows about him, and I think he's a really cool dude. And he knew that, so he could reach up into the unified field, into the dark matter of the universe, bring down all those loaves and fishes, and feed everybody, and have tons left over. We can do that if we actually take this stuff as true. That's what when I was hanging out with these Indians, I'm like, guess what? It's true. They can do it. Why can't we do it? They can shapeshift into other beings. They can, this stuff, you've heard some stories about Native Americans, what they can do. And so I just took that as clues, answers to my question, what are the missing pieces of the paradigm? Okay, my family gave all their money away. They weren't hoarding it. They gave it away. So it is possible to live like that. And we're going to do it, because number one, the consciousness is shifting. The veil is thinning. This veil that was around our consciousness that separated us from everything is thinning, and separated us from our true self and our true nature is thinning, so that we're getting it. We're resonating to it. You guys are sitting here. We're all sitting here sharing these ideas. You're not just leaving and saying, this is absurd, Connie, you're stark raving mad, I'm out of here. I mean, you may be thinking that, but I don't think so. There's something in your heart that is resonating. I mean, this young man, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I was talking this stuff, and he's like, Belmer, Connie's stark raving mad, but he loves me anyway. And so, anyway, I just wanted to, people ask me to come and share this. You can get our book, you can go on, I've sent you links to stuff. We've got lots of YouTube channels, you can go and hear elders talking, other people talking from this perspective. You can honor your own hearts and spirits and start just saying, hell with it, I'm doing it. I'm quitting that job that I was in out of fear. I'm going to go for it and let this loving universe take me someplace that I can't even imagine I know there's more for me out there than I can imagine. I can't even fathom. And you're about ready to.
Yeah.
She's about ready to take the lead. And Marcia Shosted, I mean, if she were here, this girl lives a totally trust-based paradigm. I mean, beyond anything I've ever done. You know, I just it just felt right to move to Plymouth. So I moved to Plymouth, and I just know I'm here for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm here. And she went and bought a piece of property and built a house, and sitting there in Plymouth, like, okay, now, I mean, this is, she's lovely.
Some things you said have sounded as if they're very much from quantum theories and frequencies or dimensions, I think. And then some have sounded, if the two of you read Claire Graves and Don Beck and spiral dynamics, because some sounded...
It's definitely relevant. I have not studied, I'm aware of spiral dynamics, have not, Ken Wilber and all those guys.
Yeah.
To me, they're somewhat too on the intellectual.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
especially Wilbur,
Boots on the ground, but there's definitely something there.
Yeah, because I thought I heard
Yeah,
confusion.
interesting.
Well, see, this ultimately one truth. Ultimately,
Yeah.
we can fathom it from our place,
Right.
and we're all just trying our best to articulate something. So it comes wherever it comes
But
Whenever-
primarily for you, it was from Native Americans. Is that true? Also?
For me.
For you,
For
Andrew?
me,
Or
it was-
I'm curious how the two of you came together, blended
All
your
right, yeah.
theories and...
My primary interest has been since age 25 or something in the human potential and the potential of this being Homo sapiens to become something more than it is, which is another way of saying.
When I
Another
first
way of
met
saying
him
what
10 years ago, I'm like,
Yeah, so we
oh
met.
my God,
we had a-
he's not only cute, he is resonating to the same stuff I am, so.
So then...
So, my background is science.
Right.
So I'm, part of my job in this whole project, the book, for example, was to put the science behind Connie's amazing articulation. Now, I'd spent 35 years with spiritual teachers of various kinds, mostly Sufi, so Middle Eastern Islamic Sufi, who have done, that group has done one of the most profound investigations into the nature of reality. You have your Gnostic Christians and of course your Vedic Hindus and Buddhists and on and on and on. The ones who got to me the most were the most primitive. The Kalahari Bushmen, the world's oldest people. They carry the oldest DNA on the planet, don't even have a language in common, and yet, boy, do they, if you happen to be in the same environment with one of them, and I've seen that influence on lots of people who just go, I didn't even, because it's non-left brain, it's entirely, I think the best moment, because we don't have much time to, because we go into this in some depth in our workshops. I was teaching organic chemistry. That was my field in South Africa, college in South Africa, when I was a young man. And I started studying things. My dad wanted me to be a chemical engineer, so I followed that path and decided did not want to be in a factory. I'd rather be in a college. I'd rather teach, so I was doing that. And then I said, I'm going to start studying things that interest me. So I got into anthropology. I want to know how people think. So it was specifically to do with comparative religion. And I stayed away from, I never went into the Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam. I was interested in how so-called primitive people think, indigenous people think. And I had, prior to that, studied quantum science. But I didn't understand. I had the vaguest glimmering. I probably had about as much of a glimmering as my professors, because they hadn't the foggiest either, because it's very difficult to actually get an intellectual grip on it. So I had this vague idea of quantum science. I find myself studying the cosmology of the Australian Aborigines, the dream time, if anybody has been there. And the realization I had back then was, wow, wait a minute, these people are speaking pure poetic quantum science. So there it was. And then at some point in a Time magazine or something, I read this, there was a buzzword in the 60s called cosmic, about these two words, cosmic consciousness. And I said, whatever that is, I want it. And it seemed to be emanating from California. Now, there was that Beach Boys song about California girls. It was also emanating, so I have to say, and the Summer of Love and so on. So all of those attractors got me over here. My girlfriend at the time said, no, if you get that, you have to go to India. So she went to India. I went to California. I haven't left. Well, I haven't left this continent since '69 when I came over. And most of that time has been I raised 5 kids and did all the regular things, but a lot of it has had to do with figuring out myself as a human being and what's the best me, and then us, what's the best us, and how do we do that?
Are you in contact with Craig Hamilton, the spiritual evolutionary movement? Is that,
Yeah.
would there be an overlap?
Yeah, again, aware of him and his work, but not directly. You know, we've worked directly with some, and we've spoken along with some of the, you know, the luminaries in that realm.
Yeah.
We're just the book's only a year old, and it's changing everything for us now. You know, once you have a book, your credibility goes up a slot or two. Mm-hmm.
So what time is it? Is it, we need to be joking now?
Ice cream, ooh.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
So our
for...
book's available at $20. It includes the film on the origin and future of humanity that we've done in Africa, the U.S., and Mexico. And you can get it from our website, or you can get it from us. And there's some handouts there. And that's about it.